I wanted to put together a program that wasn't catering to the 0.01% of the market segment, like Function and what Equinox is doing, like a Mayo, like a Fountain Life. I wanted to put something together that democratizes this thing and makes it accessible to a larger population of our membership. So I wanted to put something together that was effective. I hired James Laval as our chief science officer. We took his intellectual property called the metabolic code that is an algorithm of a cloud-based formula that ingests somebody's blood work. And when we do these 100 plus biomarkers on somebody as a start of this journey, we plug them into the metabolic code and it breaks it down into 5 simple triads.
Hi, I'm Lauren Parsons.
And I'm Andy Jackson, and this is the ALWELLCO podcast.
Dive deep with us as leading experts share their unique perspectives on topics such as recovery, sleep, movement, and the latest innovations in the space.
So Jeff, thank you so much for being on the ALWELLCO podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Your career in the fitness industry has been nothing short of inspiring, and I'm really glad we got you on today. I know our listeners are really eager to hear your insights, but before we dive into your journey, I want to set the stage. Can you share how we first met and what drew you to ALWELLCO? What drew you to us?
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's wonderful to be here with you this morning, and it's my pleasure. And I think the fact that you guys are looking to be innovative, you're looking to be identifying the opportunities and the trends for folks in the health and fitness and wellness industry. And so I think that now more than ever, folks in the health and fitness and wellness category are looking to ensure that they're well positioned for success, whether that be an operator of multiple different levels. So I think a source like you folks providing that context of where the opportunities are going to be and what it can look like, and most importantly what it means for folks out there and what they should be doing about it. I think that's the intriguing part.
Yeah, love that.
So
Well,
I think, and I'd also just simply add the fact that, like you, I'm very passionate about sharing information. I think it's life is about that wonderful circle, and you guys are doing a great job of that, and I want to be a part of that.
Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into it. So who are you? What's your background? What influenced your early career choices?
Yeah, I grew up in a small rural community on a farm, and was highly competitive. Got into sports and athletics early on, and found that I was sort of the black sheep in that community, and the fact that I wanted to take a different path, and played collegiate football, and then went on to work on my master's in exercise physiology, and became a grad assistant, and worked at the high school, college, and even worked with the Vikings for a period of time at strength conditioning area, and kind of thought exercise phys and exercise science and working with sports performance and athletes was going to be my destiny, right? And I loved it. I love coaching, I love athletics, but I really started doing the economics of the time investment relative to the return, and realized that there's probably a better way to think about economizing my life, and jumped into training and moving into the Minneapolis market. Started as a trainer in the early days when the Nautilus equipment just came out, and started doing the circuit work, and just loved it. And so this is the first large commercial facility. Jumped quickly into a hospital-based facility and managing that in St. Paul, having the opportunity to work on the completely opposite end of the continuum of consumer there now, with prenatal, postpartum, diabetic, post-op, orthopedic, and then also in cardiac rehab. and various other, weight management pops. So really love the ability to, work in that context. In the late 80s, I had an opportunity with uh, that was posted with a company called NordicTrack that was based here in Minneapolis at the time. They were a $75 million company that obviously had one product, the infamous world best aerobic exerciser as this NordicTrack skier. And I jumped in there. 10 years later, I had an amazing depth and breadth of marketing experience because it was a marketing machine, as you can remember. And did everything from infomercials to QVC, home shopping, but was the vice president of product development and merchandising there. Grew that company from 75 million to 500 million, and then jumped into Lifetime in 1998 with Brahma Karate, the founder, and saw the initial, start of an amazing vision. We had 7 clubs in the Minneapolis-St. Paul market only. We were doing about $137 million of top line revenue. And, here we are today, 25 years later. We are 180 clubs strong, an iconic national brand at $2.4 billion of revenue, and 1.5 million access members and 1.5 million digital members, and just proud of all that we've been able to do with 35,000 team members of the company, and it's just been amazing. So that's kind of where it leads me to today.
Yeah. I'm interested. What do you think made you the black sheep of your family? What sparked your passion for health and fitness?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was probably just more of what I would refer to, not that my other siblings didn't have it, but grit. And, I was one of those kids that would, at the time when I was growing up and in the environment I grew up, I had to go hide in the trees to go do push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups because it wasn't an accepted, thing in the community. And so I was different, right? And I do think it was about sports. It was sports and athletics and then fitness was the closest phenomenal parallel to that for me that I could really find a track on. And many times people have asked me where you thought you'd end up where you're at. Hell no. Right.
Yeah.
And just the different braided paths that the river takes. And, I've just been blessed and fortunate to, impact as many lives as we have. And for me, starting as a trainer in the business, we all know how wonderful and rewarding that is to have your clients go through these, transformational changes in their life. And it was difficult. And for me, progressing in my career, to remove one step away from that impact. But when you start to understand the macro impact you can have on more lives, that's where I think, again, the circle of life continues to be so much more fulfilling. And the fact that you can do it on a really large scale basis.
Sure.
So Jeff, let's just dive a bit more into that. You and I have both been in the industry well over 30 years, we have to admit. I actually did look at your age, and you and I are identical ages, so we look pretty well. It shows that fitness does a good thing. Does a good thing for us. I started off similar as you. I mean, maybe you were more of I was a failed soccer player, didn't make it, wanted to be a professional, played what you'd call minor leagues. Now, I went off and they called it human movement studies in the UK. I then jumped into the certification side where you went NordicTrack equipment side. I think we both jumped around in Lycra and did group exercise. I think we've both done that for our sins, good, bad, or indifferent. What I'm intrigued about is that if you took every 5 years or every 10 years, I've seen some definite defining changes in the fitness industry. Can you just take us through what you've seen from NordicTrack through to now? What are some significant changes you've seen in the fitness industry?
it's pretty remarkable, right? When I think folks like us look back and see, the journeys that the industry has gone through, and of course, preceding me and you, even, right? I had Dr. Ken Cooper on my board at NordicTrack, right? The founder of the aerobics movement, who's a god like in the industry, and obviously was such an integral part of advancing the knowledge and understanding of the benefits of cardiovascular exercise, cardiorespiratory exercise, the phenomenal research they were doing there. And that was just in great alignment at the time of getting people moving more. And there was a heavy focus, I would say, on obviously the running movement, the Group X movement, as you say. And that was all a really great time. While I think resistance training, strength training was still very much reserved for emerging with athletes, not as much yet. But obviously for bodybuilders and power lifters and,
Charles Atlas.
Yeah.
Good old Charles Atlas.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And probably wasn't obviously well understood at all relative to the far-reaching implications, of course, that we're seeing today. But like you, I was heavily involved and had all the certs in NSCA, NASM, and ACSM, of course, and felt like, the industry really needed to go through this maturation and this sort of growing up of making sure that we back ourselves up with great research and science and fact-based approach to, the theories that have existed and the emotional instincts that were there, of course. So I think, it was wonderful for me to follow and be embedded like you in a lot of those tracks. And, I was just telling a colleague yesterday about the opportunity they had at NordicTrack to buy all of the rights of the Joseph Pilates performer in probably 1991, and I passed on it so brilliantly, right? Because I thought it was another passing fad in the category. Yeah. Yes. And at the decade I was with NordicTrack, of course, there was, the life cycle I could see of the equipment and the products getting shorter and shorter, right? At one time, they were, the NordicTrack itself was a very long cycle by contrast, but by the time I had left there, the life cycles had slipped to like 6 months, less than a year. And so the fad and fashion nature of the category was really going through this metamorphosis. So I think, it's just super interesting, as you say, how things went from choreographed Group X to, step and low impact. And when we first saw spinning from Johnny G and how that's gone, and some of the challenges now that we're seeing in the spin and group cycle categories, and where the other growth drivers are coming to today, of course, with the advent, like we're suggesting, in Pilates, resistance training, recovery, longevity, wellness, right? And this tremendous convergence, folks, right, on these, like I say, this braided lines, much like various streams running into a river when you think about recovery and precision medicine and medi-spas and fitness and longevity, and how it's starting to all merge together. I think that the reality, as we all know, is that the consumer now more than ever is looking to have control over their own health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at the same time, folks like you are trying to help professionals and consumers sort through all the misinformation and pseudoscience that's out there, so they can make really good, educated decisions about their own health. And I do think, for me, like you, at the age we're at, right, and now I think starting earlier than ever, and why I'm so doggone passionate about the longevity category, is because we know we have this traditional healthcare system that's, going to exist And the realities of it, it's either focused, as we know, on highly specialized care or not getting to the root cause of the consumer's problem. And so this opportunity for so many investors and entrepreneurs and operators to go ahead and ride side by side with that and provide the consumer with solutions to optimize their health, whatever their age, whatever their fitness level. And sorry to go on with that.
No, not at all. No. The whole idea of this podcast is about your perspective. I do want to go back a little bit, because it's funny when I talk to various people who've come up with concepts. I spoke to two recently. One was in the mindset brain side. The other one was in speed training. Both of them said, Andy, it would be my dream to get into Lifetime Fitness. Yeah. That's literally what both of them said to me. So let's talk about Lifetime Fitness. How did Lifetime Fitness get started? What have you done to shape the company? How's it involved? And I think people always love to hear the good, but tell us some of the challenges that you and Bram had and how you guys overcame them.
None of those, Andy. There's just none. All been smooth sailing, wind at our back. I'll start by, respectfully, as colleagues in the industry, making a really clear distinction on your comment there. And I know the brand Lifetime Fitness still exists, but we are Lifetime. And we are Lifetime because we're a healthy way of life company that has a decade or so ago dropped the name fitness with the intention.
Oh, so I'm up to date then.
Yeah, no, it's all right. No, it's all right. It's a fair point. And I just want to make sure
that's fair.
I illustrate the reality of the evolution of the brand, right? The innovative nature of the brand that, we weren't comfortable, and we saw, the great things about the health club business as a $30 billion industry. But when you think about the broader wellness market, it's a $400 billion category, right? And so we have obviously had our eye set on social, recreation, sports, athletic, aging, 90 days to 90 years of age. And so to answer your question, it's been an amazing ride, and, Lifetime has worked, maniacally on making sure that our focus continued to remain on what we refer to as member point of view, MPV, member point of view, the customer perspective in everything that we do. And that was evolved into this idea of differentiating the model through the best people, best places, and best programs. As you can appreciate it, as an operator and a complex operator, intentionally creating a high barrier to entry in a very low barrier to entry category, right? And that, for us, we know it. A lot of folks wake up today with the same fire in their gut and passion to start a business. But it's really important for, I would say, to people like Lifetime model to say, what's your right to win? What is your differentiation? And how easy is it for Tom, Dick, and Harry to open something up a block away and completely replicate what you're doing? For us at Lifetime, we've built a deep and wide moat around us. And that moat is consisting of multiple different variables. First, it's capital, of course, intense nature of the business, right? And so you only achieve that through making sure your do-say ratio is extremely high. I do what I say, and I say what I do relative to delivering on our results. I mean, we'll do about $660 million of adjusted EBITDA this year. So it's a phenomenal trajectory that the company is on. So, but that mode is about, the capital intention nature. We'll be putting about $800 million of working capital in new growth for new clubs every year, in the 10 to 12 new clubs every year. And again, a lot of people think a club is a club, and Brahm and I used to do these analogies with a monkey and an ape, and they're both, you could say monkeys, but just like Lifetime's a club and anything else is a club. But, now the cost of capital for a new Lifetime is, 150 to $200 million per club, and they're 200,000 square foot clubs. And, we're going to get this year 112 million swipes across the ecosystem. We've got, 100 or 17 million square feet of real estate under roof now within the system. So, and I think that, again, the right to win in that moat has been deepened by the place, the programs, and the performers that have to be exceptional. We recognized going back to the 2014, 2015 boutique revolution with Soul Cycle and Berries and everything else that was coming, the CrossFits, that we needed to make a significant investment into the depth and breadth and distinctness of our programming. Our cycle program, our yoga program, our Pilates, our personal training, all of those programs had to be best in breed. And they had to be differentiators for us folks in a way that they created attraction and retention. And we know this business is about people. This has always been about a people business. Sure, of course. We'll continue to see, and we can talk about the evolution of the omni-channel and digital and personalization, how it complements what we've had to do starting in COVID rapidly. But the fact that we had invested in the places, in making distinct environments for our group training programs, for our other fitness programming, in a way that was a massive investment all the way from 2014
So Jeff,
to 2000.
let me just dive in there and ask you a question on that. So to get that, have you used the methodology that you basically hire or buy in the best expertise to do that, or sometimes do you bring in the organization that's already got that and they act as like a little mini franchise in Lifetime? How does that work? Are you all, do you do everything yourselves, or how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I just had a really great conversation with our M&A team at Lifetime yesterday, and this is very relevant, right? Because most of our mergers and acquisition work historically had been around our core business of clubs, either a couple or, a group of clubs or a great operator. We have attempted in the past, most of the time, to go it alone on our programming development, to build it internally because of our sort of culture, our vernacular, our philosophy, that we needed to be harmonious and consistent. But I will say that more and more as we've evolved as a company, we've been interested in taking that talent and bringing them into life.
Bring into a growth time.
Yes, because they are an amazing visionary around one of these kinds of verticals. So it's a great question, Andy.
So come on then, I'm going to pin you on one thing.
Sure.
So you, as in Jeff, who's helped build this with Brahm, what are you most proud of in your career with Lifetime? Give me one thing.
Yeah, the one thing would be, it has to go back to what is most important in terms of defining my success and leaving a legacy for what I've done over the 25 years. It's the people. It's the casting. Again, I use the word casting, not hiring. We cast like a Broadway musical, like Disney casts for positions. So the casting, the onboarding, the training and certification, and use training very lightly because our certification is rigorous and we need to know. But ultimately, the most rewarding part is seeing those people build their careers and have such relentless success in the company and the wealth creation for their families that they've been able to create. So, coming out of COVID, like so many of us, I shifted to this because I'm a driver, right? I like Brom. We love to compete. We love to win. We hate to lose. And so these leadership qualities that we've created, with passion, thrust, and vision, um, were near and dear to me as a leader for so long. But I think that I over-indexed on thrust, and thrust for you folks listening is a function of moving with decisive velocity towards your intended goal. And that defined me pretty well. But as a leader, I feel like I evolved to this idea of operations from the heart, if you will. And as the COO for the company for a very long time, I started to frame up this premise that it is about a culture of care, first and foremost. Because as we know from this 1994 Harvard Business Review study that looked at the service profit chain, the most important thing in the chain of success is whether that employee or team member, as we call it, loves what they're doing, they're highly engaged, and they're a raving fan, right? And they're appreciative. And the next part of that is how that impacts our customer and our member. And the last part of that, of course, service profit chain, is how the financial results play out of that.
Sure.
And I got back to the core of that, and that was the most rewarding part of my career. And it remains that, the people.
I'm really glad you brought up people, because oftentimes, being an outsider, you hear Lifetime, treats their people really well. And so it's something I wanted to ask you is, and you started to touch on it, but what was your approach to building this loyal and engaged team? We can talk through certifications and stuff like that you manage, but it's more than that.
Yeah. And I think, I got to give a ton of the credit and kudos to Bram, right? Bram started this company with a vision, and it never wavered on the idea that, the employee, the team member is the most important part of our equation. So, you can, do a lot of different things, put a break room in, give them wellness days off. You can, give them a couple PTO days and more and stuff, right? And even pay them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But as we all know, treating them with the utmost level of respect and dignity, that you as an executive serve them, is a culture that I'm proud that we created.
Yeah.
That we are only there in HQ, right? That was $180 million annualized part of our business, reduced to about 140, 130 million post-COVID, to serve that operations team in the field. And so that was a mindset that we continued to build on. And that also, as you can know, the number one thing about great leadership is we never ask anybody to do something that we wouldn't do ourselves first.
Yeah.
So that's why Bram, the rest of the leaders know that picking up garbage in the parking lot is part of our responsibility. Folding towels, cleaning the lockers is part of our responsibility. So I used to take days out of our schedule, and we would deploy our leadership team to do deep cleaning in our clubs and ensure that they could see me hands on my knees scrubbing in the showers and the common areas.
Wow. Yeah.
And I will never lose my Iowa farm boy work ethic relative to that mentality.
Yeah.
And it all comes back around whole circle to, what your values are in life and what's important,
Yeah. I love that. It's simple to listen to, but hard to really put into action. It's day in and day out.
It is. It is because, and also money and finances can become distracting drivers and motivations and take all of your attention away from the foundational core of what's most important, especially when, like us, we've been a publicly held company twice, and we are now, right? And the demands, as we can understand, for the street and the growth, right? And where you cut corners,
Sure.
and where and because again, I'll go back, Andy and Lauren, that part of what we did in that programming revolution in 14 to 17 was we had to increase the pay of our performers dramatically. And we had to put bounties on the folks because we know the fact and reality is that members would drive across the city to go to that cycle class or that yoga class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is worth 500 memberships many times, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then as we evolved into major metropolitan areas like Manhattan, we recognized that, of course, we have to have much more. We're a Midwest-born company, right, in Minnesota. And as a result, you had cost structures that were a function of that, but you had to continue to evolve as we went out to the coast in that regard. So that was an important evolution for our company.
Sure. We've talked about your revenue numbers a little bit and how you've grown into a bit of a monster. I'm really interested to hear, how have the skill set requirements changed over the years with management and trainers and employees? Because, you hear it often, and I know there's a Harvard Business Review on it, is, the folks that you have in from the start not always are the ones that you have when you're grown. So how did you evolve that?
That's a great question and spot on relative to a company going through the really accelerated maturation, over the last 30 years that we have. And there's no doubt that, as we referenced early, that it has its share of growing pains. Like the little fawn that's awkward as a deer, right? And is not very agile and growing up, developing all those neuromuscular patterns. And we had to do that. So when I started with the company, you started to see this infusion of what I'll refer to as more classically trained business school folks coming into the equation versus the makeup historically of folks that just grew up in the business and progressed their career from front desk staff, folding towels, hospitality, into membership sales and so on. And they were successful selling memberships and personal training because they're so charismatic and it's natural for them, right? We know this as part of the business.
Sure.
So we had this constructive tension that began to come up as we evolved and created more sophisticated systems. And I think it made all boats rise. But I would say that, that happened at the corporate office probably the most early on as needed, of course. And then, in the clubs, I think, the interesting thing that we did post-COVID is we shifted so much of the ownership decision-making to the clubs. We had become such a top-heavy, corporate-driven organization, like a franchise operation, mandating, the playbook so tightly. And of course, I had business ownership, many CEOs of all of our ancillary revenue streams of, our aquatics business is a $50 million business. Our personal training business was a $300 million annualized business. Our life spa is a $120 million top line business. Our cafe was a $130 million top line business. And so we had many CEOs over all that businesses as well as regional infrastructure to really drive the 4 Ps, price, product, promotion, right? And make sure that the playbook continues to evolve and get tight. That is a function of the consumer needs and industry trends. And so, that SOP and that best practice really was refined, as well as developing what we refer to as the unit economic model, right? What is the optimal unit economic model? When I think about our 180 clubs, we created centers of excellence, if you will, across Lifetime within Berkeley Heights Personal Training, Montvale Swim Team, right? Life Cafe, Palm Beach Gardens. So those became the training centers. So we shifted so much of the ownership, decision making, and of course that helped the club leadership believe that, hey, I have autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to stay within the guardrails of the Lifetime brand, so that, because as you folks know, walk in one in Denver, Colorado, and we walk in one in Midtown in New York City, we want to know it's a Lifetime, and it has the same caliber of, white glove customer service. But we really gave them a significant more amount of decision making relative to how they want to run their own business.
Sure.
And, as an operator, I feel a lot better than having it all dictated to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, Jeff,
yeah.
let's dive into one of these kind of issues then that would fit into that methodology.
Yeah.
Is that I, for example, get the occasional injury. I have found that there's some online PTs who can fix me, and they never touch me. They never go anywhere near me. I don't have to go see them, etc. So let's just look at, let's do personal training. So the online versus in-person personal training, you said, I think $300 million. So it's obviously still going well.
Pre-COVID it was, and now it's well beyond that. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
So share your perspective on this shift, and how have you at Lifetime and your team adapted to the balance between online and in-person?
That's a great question, and a really needed discussion, I believe, across the industry in a greater extent. And to your point, how are we supposed to deal with it, right? Inevitably, right? Members we know are going to consume this fabulous, most times, hopefully fabulous content that they can get online and through digital and virtual opportunities. So what Brahm and team did rapidly coming back after post-COVID, we knew that there was a necessity to re-establish our personal training brand entirely and make it more distinctive, because quite honestly, it wasn't. And so that's when we launched Dynamic Personal Training. And DPT came about with the whole premise of delivering a personal training experience that can't be replicated digitally or virtually.
Okay.
So that the elements that the trainer brings physically, in terms of identifying target muscle groups, doing, agonist and antagonistic work, the proprioception work, adding the dimensions of our dynamic stretching component that we added, our recovery components. And that was really the onset of us starting to lean into how we were going to contend with this. And then, of course, fast forward to current, you can see that we are dedicating an unsurmountable amount of our tech resources into our program called Lacey. And Lacey becomes the Lifetime AI opportunity for all of our members to access content, information, programming, and everything else. So again, we've always been passionate about changing the industry relative to the standards that are out there with personal training. We only hire personal trainings with certifications. We created our own academy with NASM because of, and Brahm with the IRSA and HFA early on with the Industry Leadership Council was a huge advocate of mandating that across, the industry. But as you can appreciate, for a lot of reasons, people weren't in favor of that as sometimes small operators. But we will continue to push on the idea that, we've got to have great education and great certification with our trainers in order for us to deliver what we want. And so that's kind of how I would say we've bookended that idea.
Okay.
So Jeff, we recently had a podcast with somebody who's an expert in NLP, and they are an expert in terms of mindset and etc. around there. And one of the things that he said was that the fitness industry spends too much time on the physical and doesn't spend enough time on mindset of the members. And that's one of the reasons why when you get to April, May, June, a lot of people leave the clubs and they give up their membership and they don't turn around, etc. How are you guys dealing with that mindset? What he really meant around the mindset is that, does your customer even understand why they're there at Lifetime? Do they really understand what their goals? So how are your trainers, how are your people dealing with the whole mindset piece?
Yeah, I would say that I believe we have a massive, blue ocean of opportunity there still. It's left still today to, the I'd say the trainers that instinctively are great at it, right? That understand how to motivate, inspire, set goals, overcome obstacles, work with that behavioral modification model of ensuring people, know what they're trying to accomplish, set realistic goals, and have a good plan. But, we have developed, seen the growth of, mental health. We've developed our own mind version on our app, which is, I think, a really valuable, important part of what we're doing. And within, what we'll talk about probably in a little bit, we know within the longevity category, the whole, mental component will continue to be just explosive. There's no denying of it. So
Sure.
with the aging population and everything else. So I'd say we still have massive opportunity in that regard to
Okay.
figure out how to engage the customer long term.
Sure. Let's switch gears and let's talk about what you're up to today.
Yeah.
MIORA.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
How did the concept come to life?
Yeah, thanks. MIORA. MIORA Longevity and Performance. Brahm and I have talked for many times about the whole idea of a different approach, a holistic approach to how we serve the customer. There were many compounding factors. This back in 2016 or so, Brahm and I launched a business called Proactive Care. When you think about the name Proactive Care, you get it probably. So what we hired an MD, put them into a Lifetime facility, partnered with them with a registered dietitian and a personal training. And the idea would be, of course, to circle this customer and their needs in a holistic way and look at them as a whole being to try to figure out how to solve their problems. Yeah. We built out 10 or 15 locations. We hired the docs, and, we failed miserably at it in the execution. And again, it may have been the execution. It may have been before the time. I believe also a contributing factor was where we were focused on in the area of kind of primary care. So fast forward to today, and a couple of years ago, Brahm and I started talking about the longevity space, and we both understood that enormous mega trend that was forthcoming here and the opportunity ahead of us. And we were seeing, and I was studying, the biohacking trends of the Hubermans and Tias and Johnsons and so forth, and how this is starting to become mainstream and these converging areas. And so he said, why don't you start working on this on the side? And this is when I was still kind of the COO and president, of course. And it was a passion play for me initially. As an exercise physiologist and a guy who started our nutritional supplement business at Lifetime. It's a very interesting business. And so what it is, in effect, is this opportunity for our consumers to achieve optimal health. We all know that as Americans, we're living longer, but we're not living healthier or better.
Right.
The average American, is living 14 years of their life in chronic poor health. I mean, so But again, as we said earlier, there is this need now and this desire for consumers to live healthier and an optimal health. And they, like me, like you, they don't want to be compared to age-related norms. I want to perform and function like a 38-year-old, 35-year-old, mentally, physically, every way. And
Absolutely.
I'm gonna try to do that, right? So we put together a program that we believe. We went out first, surveyed 400,000 of our members, and we said, "What do you think of these kinds of things?" It was amazing, the responses and validation that we got. I mean, for example, 95% of those 400,000 members obviously were committed to improving and engaging in their own health and wellness to a greater extent. But yet over half of them weren't even considering doing that through their primary care physician, through the traditional healthcare system.
Yeah. Then trust it.
So as we can all appreciate, there's no place for people to turn. So right now we were seeing our members going to these one-off, clinics and recovery and longevity things. And just like always, we wanted to be the one-stop shop solution. We feel here we have such an undeniable right to win, as I said earlier, because we have a couple different things at our disposal. First, we have the real estate. We have iconic facilities with underutilized real estate in our clubs today that we can quickly and rapidly redeploy for this application.
Yeah.
We have the existing member that is highly educated, that has high discretionary income, that is already committed to their overall health. So I wanted to put together a program that wasn't catering to the 0.01% of the market segment, like Function and what Equinox is doing, like Mayo, like a Fountain Life. I wanted to put something together that democratizes this thing and makes it accessible to a larger population of our membership. So I wanted to put something together that was effective. We hired James Laval as our chief science officer. We took his intellectual property called the Metabolic Code. That is an algorithm of a cloud-based formula that ingests somebody's blood work. And when we do these 100+ biomarkers on somebody as a start of this journey, we plug them into the Metabolic Code and it breaks it down into 5 simple triads so that you can begin to understand what the priorities are. We at the same time do a very extensive intake of symptomology, right? Do I have brain fog, right? Is it like pushing a thought through jello? Am I having trouble sleeping? Am I having difficulty recovering? Is my sex life okay, right? So we understand and put together this blood work with the symptomology. You meet with the doctor and the practitioner, either a PA or an MD, and we go through that analysis and create that prioritization through that dashboard of where we need to start.
Jeff, can I just ask you just one? Sorry to interrupt. Just one question there. So the doctor and the medical, are they MIORA employees?
They are.
Okay.
We formulated legally a separate subsidiary and a management service agreement where that's an arm's length distance from the mothership, and where they're employees of the subsidiary of MIORA under the MSA of that doc in the market.
No, that's incredible. That's incredible.
So NPs, PAs, then we surround it like we had thought before appropriately with registered dietitian and personal training. So they get the holistic approach. We take them through body composition testing and of course set up on the nutrition program, the supplement program, and then we build the plan for them, retest them in 3 to 6 months, and continue them on their journey. Some of our destinations will have things like hydromassage, of course, cryomassage, IV therapy. In this location in Minneapolis, we have red light therapy. We have, of course, cryo chambers. We have infrared saunas. In this facility, we have female incontinence machines. We have aesthetic services. And we spent $1.2 million on aesthetic equipment in this one location.
Wow.
that was our pilot. So again, our commitment is to try to make sure, and we do this all for a $400 initial blood work for the base, $800 for the premium,
hmm
and then a $299 a month subscription on
Oh, wow.
top of your club membership.
Okay.
So again, you get access to the RD, the PT, and the doc on an ongoing basis. You get member-only discounts on your hormones, on your peptides, on
hmm
your IV, and on your supplements.
Okay.
Again, part of our challenge, of course, we've got to discuss just quickly the mega trend of GLP-1s.
hmm
Our approach, of course, is we believe this is a phenomenal tailwind. We know from the research that consumers are 3 times likely more to exercise on a GLP-1 than not because they have hope. And it's breaking through so many of the challenges that the obesity has created. But it's got to be done right, correct? So our program of strength training and the rigor of that program with the proper protein and hydration and blood work at the onset is a critical component because you can get GLP-1s seemingly on the street corner today, right? Yet they're lacking any of the components necessary for
The holistic
safe
stuff.
and efficacious long-term programming.
Sure.
And that's the concern that, of course, we have.
Yeah. So this program sounds incredible. Just the offering, the list of the offering services. Obviously, it's not traditional. You're very much thinking outside of the box. It's what the consumer is asking and begging for.
Yes.
What challenges have
Yeah.
you faced in rolling out this program?
Well, I would say the multiple, right? Like with anything new, right? Brahm and the team, we agreed we'd focus on 2 things in this order. 1, the customer journey. Customer journey has to be impeccable, right? It has to be additive and accretive to the mothership of Lifetime. And as you can appreciate, this program has to work in seamlessly to the existing Lifetime ecosystem of
Mhm.
our spas, our medis, our personal training, our recovery, our cafe, and our nutritional supplements that are exist. Got to plug into that. So the customer journey from start to finish, the time they're inquiring to the time that they're starting to see the dramatic changes in their life is impeccable. Second thing is the unit level economics. Got to make money, right?
Mhm.
We're a publicly held company. It's got to work. It's got to contribute to the financial growth of the enterprise in that order. So we've been relentless, and that has taken time to get right. In that, making sure that we cast the right healthcare professionals and practitioners for this is crucial because you can either get, I'll say, the old dog that's stuck in their ways
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
not innovative relative to these new approaches and philosophies, or you get a young cat that just doesn't have enough depth and
Yeah.
experience and perspective to know how to work in these domains. So, that's why we've developed partnerships with American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, James Laval, A Forum, and really working on casting lead practitioners that have that track record. I would say making sure that we find the right, space format that's going to be scalable. What amenities that I talked about earlier need to be in there to make sure that it has the right attraction and retention.
Mhm.
My belief that this can be a $500 million annualized business in the next 3 years for Lifetime, with probably a 38 to 40 point contribution margin to it, right? So
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Jeff, are you still at Unit 1, or have you opened multiple now?
we're opening the second one in our in Evanston, Illinois, and we're
Yeah.
launching in the process of launching 10 right now in a hub and spoke across the U.S. within the Lifetime portfolio.
Wow.
Okay.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
So
This
we're in-
is really, I mean, when you
Yeah.
actually put the math together and you think about what you'd pay for functional health or what you'd pay for all the different
Mhm.
separate unities, this is actually very affordable. I
Yeah.
assume it's linked to my membership, though I can't be a non-member and come and use it.
That's right. That's
Fair.
right.
Yeah, that's
That's
fair.
right.
That
Yeah,
makes complete
and
sense.
membership has its privileges, yes, and we're looking
Sure.
to cater
No,
this.
you've got a ready-made market. Yeah, no, actually, I've been doing some brain mapping stuff, and we can talk about that offline later. Where I go is in a sports performance facility with indoor running track and etc. around there, and their businesses are helping each other. There's physical therapists, chiropractors, neuro training, etc. So that makes complete sense.
Yeah, and that's the ecosystem that I'm referring to. Yes.
You and I. So congratulations on that. Hope that goes really, really, really well. And if we see anything out there that we think might complement it, we'll of course send it your way.
Love that.
I want to go back into the wider industry, and it's kind of one of my passions is climate change, sustainability, etc. So don't really want to get into the politics of whether you believe it's not a real. I believe it's real. The fitness industry plays a role. What efforts have you seen clubs making to improve their sustainability?
Yeah, it's been extremely important to Lifetime, and we haven't done a wonderful job, probably documented and communicating, so the low-hanging fruit for us has been things like water usage. They've been things like energy usage of our buildings. We've done LEED certified buildings across the country at times. We've tested, different energy rooftop systems, of course, and we've put conservative faucets and things on shower heads and things like that. But also, we've really leaned into the recycling of the waste that we're doing and being overt about the characterization and the deployment of the waste in our clubs, and so those were some of the easy things that we've really focused on in the short term. Long term, a lot of people also don't know it. You can see some of these sustainability things if you go to our investor website. I think we've done a better job of creating visibility to them there. But also, what people don't know about Lifetime is we have a really massive foundation as part of the company that we contribute all of our dollars to two things. It's, really about healthy eating for our kids. So we've gone in and redesigned and funded the revamping of school lunch programs in schools across the country. But additionally, we've gone into this funding of planting trees as part of our foundation as well. And that's been a key part of it. We have a logo and a saying within Lifetime, healthy people and healthy planet. And we believe that. And we're working hard on that in every way, shape, and form.
Let me plant a seed on that basis then, Jeff. Yeah. So your flooring, your equipment, your seating, everything that's in there could all be made from biomaterials. It could all be made from recycled materials. I don't know who you're with at the moment, whether you're with Techno or Lifetime or Life Fitness. Sorry, I don't know who you're with.
We're with a little bit of everybody, but Techno has
everybody. So every single one of them, if you think of every bit of synthetic leather or vinyl, that could be half the carbon footprint. The flooring could be half the carbon footprint. They could be using recycled car tires, etc. How do we get the equipment manufacturers to wake up?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm, going out to Technogym's World Congress event here in February. It's a discussion I'm happy to have with Nerio and others. And it probably has to happen by the operators, right? In order for it to
It's up to you guys to nudge it.
Yeah, because we're writing their checks. We're spending, 25, 30 million annually just on replacement cardio equipment every year. So it's a big number. It's a growing number in the fleet. And you're right. I love to explore that further. I think there's a lot of furthering opportunities here that we should take a look at.
Yeah, it's definitely. I have talked to Technogym about some of this. When you look at their sustainability, they do talk about all the things you talk about: solar power, energy, water, etc. But the actual materials themselves, they could easily be doing it.
and members expect it from us as an operator, and they covet it, right? It builds a more endearing, relationship to the brand. So there's no doubt it's a win-win-win.
I
And
mean,
the way
one of
we've tried
the
to attach it is, hey, we're going to do things, and we also have to make sure they make financial sense, right? They have to go hand in hand. So
one of the things I'm kind of proud of, I'm involved in a biomaterial project, to be transparent,
okay,
and the Euro soccer ball that we did last year for the Euro Championships with Adidas was made from 66% plant-based materials.
Hmm.
It had an 86% less carbon product. So sports equipment is doing it, footwear is doing it. So
yeah,
anything you can do to nudge these guys, Jeff,
happy to,
send them my way and I'll show them how to do it.
happy to, happy to.
So, Jeff, as we come to the end of this podcast here, we like to ask one final question to every single one of our guests, and that has to do with one of our pillars, kindness. Is there someone you'd like to shout out, give a leg up to, someone who's been a mentor, someone you just like to acknowledge and thank?
That's a great question. I would start with somebody that's gone already, and that would be my mom. Who was such an amazing yet unsung hero in my life's journey, and formed so much of who I am and what I've become. And we lost her in 2007. But someone that's here right now, I'd probably have to just give kudos, because so much of what we're talking about would never exist if B.A. Brahm wouldn't have started this amazing organization and with this phenomenal vision. So I'd give it to him in current day and say, he's I'm glad he never stopped on his relentless journey when he got turned down from investors so many times early on, right? Because I think it's twofold. As we know, it's the amazing members' lives that we've changed, literally saved lives every day in this. But like I said, the employees and team members' lives that we've been able to be a part of and have an impact on. So I'd say that.
Just quickly before you sign off, don't forget to visit network.allwellco.com and join our professional network. You'll get to enjoy exclusive benefits from brands we love and have access to a community where learning and professional development are always at the forefront of everything we do.